Welcome back to this edition of Grizzlies Daily. I'm your host, Melek. And before we get into it, just want to shout out Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. If you scan this QR code right here, I don't know why I keep doing it, but if you scan this QR code right here, you'll have a chance to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Like I said, just scan this QR code and use promo code BasketballFan, and you'll get that deal right in front of you. Like I said, we'll get into them as we go on in this video, but just shout out Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video, because if you use that QR code, it not only helps you, but it also helps the channel, so make sure to do that. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm kind of steering away from talking about Ja Morant rumors at this point, because nothing new is coming for right now except, back and forth from as far as whether or not teams are calling about him or if they're pulling offers, things like that. I mean, recently there's a like couple columns going around saying he could be traded, but nothing that's like really believable. If I'm being real, it's just that simple. If I'm being honest, I mean, I see one article pulled up right here on Twitter basically saying that he want Ja for basically dirt cheap. Literally, apparently Terry Rozier and Simone Fataccio. And just being real, it's because Miami is trying to fleece the Grizzlies so that way they can still have their chance at Giannis, which I don't think is happening. Like I said, nothing really new. Like I said, nothing that just necessarily means that, oh, we can put this, behind us, but at the same time, nothing that screams that he'll get traded. So really just nothing to bring new to y'all. Like I said, yeah. Really, I wouldn't be worried if I were y'all. Like I said, nothing steers me towards the idea that he's going to get traded. I see a lot of people talking about, the London game just shows off its value again as far as like potential suitors. But like I said, I don't think a deal is going to happen. I said that from the start. So, yeah, I wouldn't sweat it at this point, guys. I think we're sticking with what we got. Now, something that did catch me off guard. The Grizzlies are apparently in trade discussions to potentially get Karl-Anthony Towns. I gotta be honest with y'all. I'm finna give y'all my thoughts, but real quick, it's basically sourced on Twitter. Knicks writer Steve Popper says the Grizzlies are among a few teams that are making calls for Karl-Anthony Towns. Well, in trade discussions. Now, the thing that really does kind of I do kind of find this believable. The reason I say that is because, let's be real, the Knicks were a team that was expected to be contenders. Right now, it's not looking good for them at all. It's not looking good for them at all. And I know how New York and the market is. They're going to try to get someone bigger to help Jalen Brunson, which means they would move on from Karl-Anthony Towns. The problem is, I got to be honest, if y'all really, really want my thoughts on this, I don't see a deal happening, and if I'm being honest, I don't think a deal should happen. I don't think the Grizzlies should trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. Just being honest. Really, because yes, Karl-Anthony Towns, he's an all-NBA caliber player. He does all these things. He can shoot the ball. He can work the post, things like that. The problem with Karl-Anthony Towns is, and Knicks fans will tell you, he has a lot of problems that comes with it. You know how we get on Jaren about foul trouble? Karl-Anthony Towns does the same thing. The problem also is Karl-Anthony Towns isn't that good of a defender as well. I literally see Knicks fans always complaining about Karl-Anthony Towns and his defense. So I don't think you get anything good from him. If I'm being honest, I don't see the point in going after a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, because you basically have the same issues that you would with some of the players. And really, as much as I harp on Jaren, I gotta be honest, I think I'd take Towns over Jaren. Yes, with Towns, I said that wrong. I take Jaren over Towns, because while Karl-Anthony Towns can rebound, he can shoot, but like I said, that defense is really, really, really a deal breaker for me. Had this been like a couple years ago, absolutely, but I really find a problem with Karl-Anthony Towns, and I'm just not a fan of it. And also, in other news, I'm sure if you all heard, there's been some other deals going on as far as Jonathan Kaminga. We've already talked about it. I don't think the Grizzlies necessarily make a deal for him, but I do like the idea of Kaminga in the Grizzlies jersey because I talked about him in the all season. We all feel like he's not being utilized by the Warriors, so I would say going after Kaminga would be a very, very good idea. But there is a reason why a deal like that probably won't happen, and I'm gonna get into that. But first, let's talk about our sponsor of this video, Underdog Fantasy. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back. Underdog is the best place to get on all the action. And playing on Underdog is actually very easy. You just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. You get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm looking at. You pull up the Underdog app right here. It's just that simple. And you want to go to whatever sport you want. I'm going to NBA. And real quick, I will go ahead and tell y'all my plays for today. I have Anthony Edwards going lower on 30 and actually no, scratch that. I have Anthony Edwards going higher than 30.5 points. He's playing the Utah Jazz. And also, let's go with a strong one. I got Nikola Vucevic going under 16, lower than 16.5 points as the Bulls are playing the Clippers. So it's very simple. You put those in, you play, and you just see if you win. You download the Underdog app today. Use promo code BasketballFan to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. And if you don't want to do that, you can always scan the QR code right here. Just that simple. Once again, you can use promo code BasketballFan. Underdog is where you make picks and you win money. So shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms, DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-878 or text HOMI 467-369.
All right, now that we're back, the reason I say that a Kaminga deal more than likely won't be happening is because, if you don't know, Jimmy Butler suffered a torn ACL last night. That is very huge on the part of the Warriors because if you look at the standings right now, if we look at the Western Conference standings, I'm about to pull them up right here. The Warriors are currently the 8th seed at 25-19. This is a team that has not played up to their potential, but they've done pretty good in their last 10 games. The problem is the Warriors kind of have a tough schedule ahead of them. They have a very tough schedule, and the fact that Jimmy Butler is down is very concerning. Also, the reason I bring that up is because you have a world where now you're going to be without Jimmy Butler, and they have made it clear. Well, Jonathan Kaminga has made it clear that he wants out of Golden State. Understandably so. Mean they're not playing him, just not really working out for them. He's a guy that has basically expressed how he doesn't like being on the team. So don't see them using him. Probably going to use someone else in his Jimmy Butler's place, like Moses Moody. Now, the reason I bring this up is because, like I said, the Warriors are currently the 8th seed, and they have a tough end of the schedule post All-Star break. We've seen Steph Curry do a lot. I don't think he can do this one. I really don't think he can. The reason I say that, it's just too much. We've seen him literally do all he can, and they still find ways to lose games. Then you have Draymond Green battling, what he does. Personally, I can't explain it. But you have Draymond Green in his role, whatever he does. I think with the right trades, even if the Grizzlies don't make a trade, I think with the fact that everybody coming back, as long as the Grizzlies can stay healthy with the guys that they have now, or even just remotely healthy, even if guys want to be out 2-3 games at a time, I'm not really tripping. As long as they can stay remotely healthy, you get Edie back, you get Jerome back, you got Scottie Pippen Jr. back, you get Brandon Clark back, depending on how long he's still on the team, because I do expect him to get moved at the deadline. That's just my thought. I think the Grizzlies can make a good push for the play-in. And I'm not talking about like a 10th seed or a 9th seed. I think they can make a push for that 8th seed. Because right now, the play-in standings go as Phoenix, Golden State, Portland, and Clippers. I feel like Phoenix can find a way to stay ahead, although the race right now, the race right now for the play is actually blown open. The Grizzlies are one game back from the 10th spot and I want to say about 7 games back from the 7th spot. It's possible. And then right now, it's literally, it can go to anybody, right? Like literally, I kid you not, Houston could drop down to the play-in. The Lakers could drop down to the play-in. Even the Timberwolves can drop down to the play-in. As crazy as it sounds, if the Grizzlies can find a way to make a late push with some trades and staying remotely healthy, there's a way where even in the play-in, they can play a favorable matchup. Just being honest. Obviously, the 1 and 2 seeds are Oklahoma City and San Antonio, and there's a possibility that it could be Denver that sneaks into that number 2 spot. And I got to be honest with y'all, I know we talk a lot about this team and how they don't really figure things out and things like that. If the Grizzlies, depending on how they are, and I truly mean depending on how they are going forward, they can make a push to be the 7th seed. Because it's not over. It's possible. I know we talk about how, the team should probably just look forward to next season, but things are rapidly happening, and there's a world where the Grizzlies could find themselves back in it. I know I said some harsh things about this team, but one thing I'm not going to do is forever count them out completely. I do an outlook on the future, but I've never counted the Grizzlies out. So it's possible. And injuries to other teams and the fact that the Grizzlies could just stay remotely healthy, it's a possible reality. And it's definitely something that we can look forward to. Let's read some of y'all's comments because y'all, like I said, been showing major love to the channel. We are currently at 760 subscribers, and we're almost at 1K views on the last video, and it hasn't even been 24 hours, so I really appreciate all of y'all for that. So I'm just going to read some of y'all's comments. We're not going to read all of them because a lot of comments really just say kind of the same thing, but I do really want to say something as far as some comments. Let's see. What we want right here. It says Ja was on a 30-minute restriction, so Islo did nothing different. The game is the Ja effect. Also, we need to fortify our front court because it seems like that we can't have Brandon Clark and Edey on the same team with these injuries, and we should trade our entire training staff for working with. I couldn't agree more with this comment. I was very thrown off, especially looking at the box score and the game. Ja being on the minutes restriction, but I mean, if we're being real, Ja doesn't really play more than 30. Well, he plays a little over 30 minutes, but nothing that just screams like, oh, minutes restriction. He's going to be very hindered by it. Because, I mean, if you look at Ja's last games, I mean, even before the injury, 27 minutes, 34 minutes, 31. So not a big difference, but, I mean, sure, it is what it is. Now, as far as the front court goes, I 100% agree. I think they should make moves. I've already pitched John Collins as a possibility. Nothing else that really screams a possibility. Obviously, we talked about Karl-Anthony Towns. I really don't think he fortifies the team in that aspect because I just think he has a lot of problems that the Grizzlies can't afford to really deal with. And for being real, I know a lot of people are a fan of it, but I'm just not. Just knowing what Knicks fans are saying, I know I would have the same problems watching Karl-Anthony Towns, and I just really don't know. I really don't know. Really don't know about that one. Let's read the next comment. It says right here. We'll read this one. The primary need for the Grizzlies is health. As far as trades are concerned, none of the core of the team needs to be traded unless it's an offer that is too great to refuse. The team and coach need an opportunity to play together, healthy, and build chemistry before making a determination to rebuild. This team, as it is currently constructed, would be a top 3 team in the West right now if everyone was healthy. At the end of the day, coaching matters, so I don't know about top 3. Talent-wise, maybe. Yeah, I mean, that's why I said really when it comes to it, I'm going to say this again because I think a lot of people are really getting construed when I'm saying it wrong. I'm personally out on Islo as a coach. That does not mean the Grizzlies are as well. Islo is here to stay. They're going to give him a chance because he hasn't had a fully healthy roster, and right now there's no telling how the roster is going to look going forward. So, yeah. it really just it's a matter of staying healthy in the chemistry. That's really what it is. Like I said, I have my thoughts. You have your thoughts. The Grizzlies have their thoughts. It's just that simple. Yeah. Next comment says they played really well in London, but getting rid of Kleiman is crazy talk. Y'all get too high when Ja has a good game. It's not about being good for one night. It's about being good over the course of a season. It's about being available over the course of a season. You know what? I'm gonna read this before I really say what I want to say. The front office has done everything possible to build around Morant. Every major decision has been made because of him. After the gun incident, they knew they needed more vets, so they moved on from Brooks. They tried Smart and Rose in that role. Bane wasn't a strong defender next to Ja, so they made moves to put a better defender beside him. We also have to remember this is a business. Some players simply got priced out. Kleiman has made mistakes, but overall he's done a solid job. Meanwhile, Morant has been available and it's been a headache at times. Ooh, okay. How do I say this? I'm going to say I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but at the same time, this is really just I think you may have heard me wrong. I've given Kleiman his props. I've been giving him leeway. The problem is I think Kleiman has genuinely peaked with some of his decisions. I gotta be honest. The Desmond Bane trade, cool. You got some picks back. I like that. Some other trades that just really have been head scratchers for me. I gotta be honest. Jake LaRavia, D'Anthony Melton. That's just naming a few. If I'm being honest. Obviously, you can't control Marcus Smart. I really don't think Marcus Smart really wanted to play in Memphis, if I'm being honest. So I'll give you that. I've said for the longest that I think Kleiman has peaked as a GM. Great guy when it comes to the draft. He can draft some very good talent. The problem is building on the talent I don't think he necessarily can do. But like I said, there's been other factors into it. But like I said, this is just my personal opinion. I really don't want y'all to think that I'm just gonna be completely out on somebody. That's just my thoughts. You guys have your thoughts. That's cool. Next comment says, it seems like we are stuck with Islo and Kleiman. If we don't make a trade, I think we are stuck in playing level until someone like John Jaren demands a trade. We should not trade Wells. He is just not ready to be a high-level starter. But Aldama, on the other hand, should be traded. His value is high. Aldama, KCP in the first-round pick for Michael Porter Jr. is a no-brainer. I think Ja will average 10 assists a game. A backup power forward is similar to put in rotation with Landale. I like Clark, but he stays hurt too often. Memphis has too many mid-level contracts that can be combined for one impact player that improves the starting lineup. If we depend on rookies and second-year players to carry us, more 20-point leads will be blown, and we'll continue to lose to non-playoff teams. Yeah, you kind of hit it spot on. I can't lie, especially with the lineup part. We definitely do need one impact player, and that's why I said I think the Grizzlies need another scorer on their team. Not even just in that's going along with the front court. Obviously, you need help in the front court, but another scorer would do this team really good justice. Someone other than Ja that can really close out the game. Obviously, Jaren can come to that level, but we don't really see it as much this year, so maybe someone else filling that role. I wouldn't mind moving on from Aldama, if I'm being honest. He does have high value, and that's why I say a team like the Golden State Warriors probably will make a call for Aldama. He's someone that I think fits them more than anything. It's hard to explain. You know how the Grizzlies you know how the Warriors had that one player that just you're like, how are they this good kind of thing? I feel like Aldama fits that. So I wouldn't mind if they decided to shop Santi Aldama. He has a team-friendly deal, so anybody would go after him. We've already talked about Michael Porter Jr., so yeah, I do essentially agree with that. And then Jalen Wells, I just said I think he just needs to be coming off the bench. He just needs to come off the bench, find his stride. Sophomore slump is something that we've always seen, and I think right now he just needs to be in a position where he can just kind of play his game and not really, be in a position where he's, heavily relied on. Well, let's see. We'll read. Let's see. We'll read this one last comment right here, and then we'll kind of cap it off. This one says, Ja makes his teammates better and his team better. True. Should listen to him. If anything, fired the medical staff and the coach Ja was right all along. I never wavered with my support for him. True fans notice. Maybe this coach is starting to listen, but some games it seems like he's listening, and the next games the rotations go downhill. Ja loves Memphis, and we love Ja. How many players have a tattoo of their team on the back? What does that tell you? A reply to that says, this is a business, and I think people are getting too emotional on the small things. Tripp makes this better. Edie makes his team better. Even Clark makes his team better. Ja hasn't been right all along. It's literally one game. He has missed half the season, but because he can't stay healthy, every game presents new challenges and different schemes. Until he can be consistent on the floor, consistent in playing games, you can't keep playing the front office. Yeah, I do essentially agree with both comments. I think the idea that I'll just speak on the first part. I don't think either side was right. I don't think this is a who was right, who was wrong kind of situation, mostly because it is one game. There's nothing, I can't just jump the gun and say, hey, Ja was right. Yeah, it's a good game. We should fire the coach and move on from the GM. Things like that. I don't see that. You have a good list of contenders you got to face coming up. I think if the Grizzlies can prove that to themselves that, hey, that Ja is the guy that can do all this and that, then sure. If he can be consistent with it, then absolutely. I got no problem with that. A lot of guys, and like I said, coming back to the comments, coming back to like both comments, yeah, Islo is a deciding factor in all this because Islo has the plan to be a good coach. We just haven't seen it. And like I said, we can blame injuries. We really can't. But the problem is, I've literally seen Islo do this with the injuries, and he just can't close it out. If he can find a way to close it out, I take back everything I said. Simple as that. He just needs to figure it out himself. As far as everything else in the reply, I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of this has shown that fans are emotionally attached to players, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, at the end of the day, the NBA is a business, which is why I said even if the team were to move on from Ja, I think a lot of people are overreacting on the state of the team and the relocation and the ticket sales and all this and that. I think it's just one big overreaction. But yeah, Ja has to be consistent and Isla has to be consistent. And quite frankly, everybody has to be consistent. You can be emotionally attached to a player, but if they are not bringing anything to the table that changes the game, then what's the point in being attached to them? I got to be honest. Look, the past is the past, but if they can't do what they can, that's just the reality. That's why I'll give you an example. Even when Jaren does good, it's like I would give Jaren his props if it was consistent throughout the season compared to the first half of the season where it looked like Jaren was the number one option at one point. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully that kind of gives y'all an idea of that. But that's going to wrap up this edition of Grizzlies Daily. Really appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified when the next video comes out. And like I said, shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. If you want $75 in bonus entries by playing your first $5, just scan this QR code right up here and use promo code BasketballFan and download the Underdog app today. Like I said, really appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I'll see y'all in tomorrow's video. Peace.